Ashley, one person has been airlifted in critical condition to Delray Beach Medical Hospital. 2 other people have been taken to JFK Hospital, and they have minor injuries. Now, I'm at the corner of Hypoluxo and Lawrence here, and you can see the Hypoluxo Road is closed in either direction. Now, part of the problem is when that high tide comes in, mixed with the heavy rain, the water drainage system here is already at capacity and doesn't have anywhere to drain. I want to show you right now. Take a look here. This is some of the properties here in this mobile home community. In the past, when this area has flooded, why do you think they're charging your son with all these charges, saying he's sex trafficking women if he wasn't involved in anything like that?
He didn't do it. He didn't do it. Sex trafficking women. He's a rapper. He's doing music.
Kristen says for 10 years, the stranger who brutally raped her was able to walk the streets and rape again. She says he was actually in prison for raping someone else when a DNA sample was taken that identified him as the man who raped her. Now, the problem with rain like that, when it floods in this area, is you don't know how deep that water is, and that's how cars end up stuck. At the end of the day, do you feel like the city is doing all that they can to alleviate the homeless problem here in West Palm Beach? The attorney for those people falsely arrested says they plan to file a lawsuit here in the state of Florida, but the damages would be capped at $200,000. So they're also going to file a federal lawsuit where they can go after a lot more money.
And that's what I was falsely charged for, trafficking of heroin.
Matthew Kroll is part of a growing list of people suing the Martin County Sheriff's Office and former Deputy Stephen O'Leary for wrongful arrest, false imprisonment, and more.
He showed me a picture of the field test kit that he supposedly conducted on his phone. He never actually showed me the field test kit.
Kroll says in his case, turns out he only had laundry detergent. This arrest affidavit written up by Deputy O'Leary says the field test was positive for heroin. O'Leary was fired for making drug-related arrests based on substances that turned out weren't drugs at all.
The moment we knew something was wrong, we moved as fast as we could to mitigate the damage.
Charges were later dropped against the people wrongfully arrested, but the damage was already done. Attorney Lance Richard is representing 20 of the victims.
This officer made up bogus claims and said there were drugs when none existed, arrested my clients, threw them in jail, high bonds, created phony charges, and the devastation has had a lasting effect.
He says the drug field test policy at the time of the bogus arrests is part of the reason it was so easy for O'Leary.
The arresting officer would field test the alleged contraband and then make the arrest having probable cause. They would place the contraband in evidence, and then it would not get tested by a laboratory until months or even years later.
We reached out to the Martin County Sheriff's Office for comment on their field drug testing policy. They declined to comment. Reporting live in Martin County, I'm AJ Walker, CBS 12 News. Mike Jones is just one of the homeless people living in Curry Park. And if you don't leave, what happens?
You go to jail.
Rodriguez Allen agrees and says police are quick to push them out of the park. Do they arrest you if you're here after dark?
They say after the sunset, the park is closed. If anybody is caught out here after sunset, they will be arrested.
But police tell CBS 12 News clearing out the parks at night is a delicate process.
We not only have a humanitarian effort in place to help them find whatever we can or help the resources, find the resources for them, we also just don't arrest them for being out there after dark.
Deputy Chief of Police Richard Morris says officers don't target homeless people camping out in the park to clear it out. But he says they have to enforce the law. When the sun goes down, everyone, including the homeless people, needs to leave.
If there's a violation of law, no matter who it is, we're going to enforce it.
But as far as where they will go, Deputy Chief Morris can't supply an answer for that because right now there isn't one. There is no shelter within the city. There is no shelter within the county. So if the officers are then coming around and asking them to leave, or they can be arrested for trespassing, where can they go? That's just the bottom.
That's a problem. That's a problem countywide.
Rodriguez spends his days in Curry Park, but at night. Rodriguez, I want you to show me where you sleep. So where do you sleep? Is this where you sleep over here?
This is the seawall right here. After we leave this here park, after sunset, we come down here and we lay, it's like maybe 3 or 4 of us that sleep down here.
He says he would rather sleep in the park.
Because you got grass and it's much safer. and then, you know, you don't want to fall off the wall into the water.
With no shelter in the city and no solution in sight, both the homeless and the police do agree on one thing.
This is going to be a total community effort. Law enforcement's not going to be able to do it by themselves. There's no way. It's going to take every resource available because the problem is not going away.
In West Palm Beach, AJ Walker, CBS 12 News.
Hello? Come here. Here your hand.
Yeah, I can show you.
For Lena Thompson, life today is about the little things. Spending time with her 2-year-old son, Travis, and watching him grow. Lena says nobody was there to fight for her when she ran away from home in Bulgaria at the age of 17, right into the hands of a sex trafficker.
The first one was my boyfriend.
After just a couple of months of living together, Lena says her boyfriend made a shocking proposal.
He said, oh yeah, well, here's a client, so you start even working. You're going to sell your body for money, for me.
How did you feel that first night after you were finished having sex with men for money?
Oh, absolutely disgusting and dirty. I felt absolutely horrible with myself.
There would be many more nights like the first one and many more clients. Lena says her trafficker controlled her every move, making sure selling sex became her world.
I couldn't have any contact with all my friends. He was constantly with me everywhere we go.
Lena says her boyfriend started sharing her with a second trafficker. Did they ever give you any of your own money that you earned?
No, they never give you the money. This is not for you. You don't deserve anything.
So if they didn't give you any money, what did they give you? Did they give you anything?
Nothing. You don't deserve nothing because for them you're nothing. All they see you as making money from you, and the more they can make, the better it is. They don't see you as a human being.
Why not just run away? Why not just take off and just run as far as you could and just get away from these people?
Because it's not that easy to do that. They break you mentally.
Lena's second trafficker took her from Bulgaria to the red light district of Amsterdam, where prostitution is legal. She spent hours in windows like this one on display for customers and people who just walk by to stare and judge.
They shout at you, the people who walk on the street. You know, they call you with all terrible names. They're not coming, sometimes they will come and spit on your window. It's just absolutely terrible. It's humiliating.
Lena wanted out, but like the girls in the window, she never let it show. Most customers never knew the pain she was in.
I think many of them are unaware that those girls and boys sometimes are trafficked. I don't think so many men are aware of that.
Lena says she was trafficked for about 8 years. She finally got out after she told a customer how badly she wished she could escape. He vowed to help.
And I thought, oh my gosh, but I don't know this guy either. What if he's another trafficker?
But he kept his word.
He came back for me.
Lena eventually found a support system and started a new life. Then met her American husband, who whisked her away to Florida. Now they have Travis.
Yay! Bravo, Travis! You're such a good boy, Mama.
And another baby on the way. Lena says the humiliation she experienced while being forced to sell her body is part of the stigma associated with sex workers. She says that stigma leads to sex trafficking victims being too ashamed to ask for help, and many of them end up trapped in that life. For CBS 12 News, I'm AJ Walker. When it comes to the southern border with Mexico, Homeland Security says they're better staffed today than at any time in their 88-year history. But with so many resources going to the southern border, too few are coming here, leaving Florida exposed.
Hey, bring another roll over here, start bouncing it out.
More wired fencing and boots on the ground as heightened security at the southern border between the U.S. and Mexico gets unprecedented attention and resources.
You are clear, brother.
Much less attention is being paid to Florida's border. It's surrounded by 1,200 miles of coastline, and smuggling drugs into the U.S. by boat is the prime way of getting around the heavily guarded southern border.
Yeah, there's a bunch of people laying down in the back of the boat.
CBS 12 investigates found with heightened security at the southern border. The drug trafficking problem in Florida is expected to get worse as smugglers seek out new, less risky routes of bringing drugs into the U.S.
You really can't secure this border.
Lisa Ruth is a former CIA officer who specializes in intelligence and security.
I anticipate that we'll see more drugs, more guns, more human trafficking, and illegal immigrants coming through. It's just such a well-established transit route that we're going to see those coming back again, and they already have started.
The Department of Homeland Security says they increased the number of boots on the ground on the border with Mexico to 18,500 Border Patrol agents, more than double what they had 20 years ago. While Florida only has 130 Border Patrol agents guarding our entire coastline.
And you look out here, where are you going to have a police presence? And you're talking about miles and miles and miles of coastline.
3 federal agencies work hand in hand to guard our state. The Coast Guard.
Are we in the right spot at the right time?
Air and Marine Operations.
Easy access in, easy access out.
And Border Patrol.
It's a crime of opportunity.
All work together around the clock to try and stop drugs from coming in.
We see people, we see narcotics, cocaine, we see marijuana. We see any type of contraband that they could bring in unlawfully into the U.S. because this is the border.
I thought it was coming from that boat.
Air and Marine Operations works to stop smugglers before they ever reach the shore. How important is your job, do you think, to the security of our country?
Paramount. Paramount.
The U.S. Coast Guard also patrols our wide-open borders. Lieutenant Joshua Tucker and his crew look for boats that might be carrying drugs and other contraband in from the Bahamas.
A lot of the vessels that are up to nefarious activities will actually blend in with normal recreational boating traffic.
In February of this year, this innocent-looking boat was interdicted by the Coast Guard carrying 128 pounds of cocaine. So far this year, the Coast Guard stopped about 90 tons of cocaine valued at $2.5 billion from entering the U.S. This video from the Coast Guard reveals what they're up against. Mounds of cocaine that would have made its way into the United States. And now, with it being harder for smugglers to get drugs through the southern border with Mexico, more will come here, likely making their job even harder. In fiscal year 2018, the Department of Homeland Security's $85 million grant called Operation Stone Garden gave 73% of that money to just 4 states along the southern border with Mexico. For CBS 12 News Investigates, I'm AJ Walker. You know, the woman reached out to us after seeing our story on Friday. Now she wants to make everybody aware of this scam so they don't become a victim. Now, the reason this scam is so successful is because it preys on people who are already in financial trouble and desperate for money.
But I needed the money to pay these bills. And I thought this man was legit and was going to help us.
June Smoots needed help getting back on her feet after fighting the hardest battle of her life, breast cancer. Now she's battling the mountain of debt that has come along with treatment.
$2,226.32.
And that's just one bill.
Right.
She applied online to what she thought was a legitimate loan company and got a call from a man posing as a loan officer.
He scammed me.
The man claimed she was approved for a $10,000 loan and said the company would start depositing money into her bank account.
He says, you'll have your $10,000 in 3 days.
Why did you feel like it was legitimate?
He just had me convinced. He asked me what bank. I told him. He asked me my account number, my track, and then he told me did I have mobile online banking.
Right away, she saw her bank account increase by $2,300. She didn't know that would soon change. The fake loan officer had required she take out $2,000 of the money they had just deposited and put it on Walmart gift cards. He said this was all part of their loan process. All of it happened over the phone. She never stepped foot into a bank.
In 3 days, I was almost $2,500 in the hole.
Turns out the deposit came from 2 checks that turned out to be fraudulent. It had been made electronically. That's why he had initially required she set up mobile banking.
It's people like him who take advantage of people like us, and we have to be careful.
Experts Experts warn you should wait until a deposit clears before spending it, and be leery of any company who asks you to pay them with a gift card.